Minutes looking at prayer requests, and then we will begin our lesson today. So, I know that there are updates, additions that need to be made, so whenever you're ready, fire away. Maynard Dean? Beam. Oh, like, okay. Beam as in like this thing above us here, holding the roof up. All right. Uh, we sent out a prayer call about Doodle. I think that was Thursday. Yeah, so she's moved from the hospital to hospice care at Hospice of Dayton, and is mostly non-responsive and not eating or drinking anything. So, yeah, that she was she's slightly worse than she was, but Friday. You know, at this point, it's just kind of a slide. And so I don't tend to ask for very specific details, because but I know she's slightly worse than she was 2 days ago, which was not good. So, we want to pray for her and that she remains comfortable, and for her family that they can just have a degree of peace about this during the transition and comfort. It is hard no matter how it happens. So we want to continue to pray for the Hargrave family. Okay. Anyone else? All right. So, from a statistical standpoint, apparently this last wave is going down and getting better. But I kind of feel like I personally know more people that have had it, or people know people that have had it. But that's just in my community. Do you have something else, Diane? That's right. He signed himself out. What's So yeah, that's the one I knew I was forgetting something. Yeah, Jeff, or the previous minister here, had COVID, was in the hospital, and signed himself out. So maybe the doctor thinks he still should be in the hospital, but he's going to do what he wants to do. So. Anyone else? Anything else? down. All right. Lots to pray about. Anyone or anything else? Let's open in prayer then. Dear God, we thank you so much for listening to us and caring about all that is on our hearts and our minds. There are many people that we know and that we love that are struggling with various ailments. And God, we know that for everything that is mentioned here that's going on with the body this morning, that there are things that we don't mention that go on in the heart and the mind as well. And we know you see those and know those and care about those just as much as well. And so we place all these things at your mighty feet. And we trust that you are good and that you know what is right. And we just pray that you will act in a way that glorifies your name and will bring people to you. But within that, we ask that you'd heal those who are sick and that you would be with them and give them strength throughout their time of illness. As we trust you and we seek you, help us to know your Son better today. Help us to become like him in the way we think, the way we speak, the choices we make, and how we live our lives. I pray with me as I teach that you will just help your words of your scripture be expressed well. It's in your Son's name I pray. Amen. All right. Welcome to the Bowersville Church of Christ Sunday School for October 17th, 2021. Dr. Sherrod is unavailable today, and so I will be filling in for him. It may be the case semi-frequently through the fall as the new year approaches. So, agriculture is central to our region. Not everyone's a farmer, but like the identity of the community is a farming community, and as such, we know that it goes in seasons. And I drive up and down Hussey Road every day to take my kids to school, and it is aligned with soybean fields and cornfields. And so we have an inherent sense of what the process and watching the machinery, which is amazing. I grew up in an Amish community where they farmed for sure, but like it was much smaller scale, less impressive equipment. And so the size of the combines and everything I've always thought is pretty interesting. And so we know it's the harvest season now, which is hugely important. Part of the genius of the Bible is that it uses everyday things as imagery to help us understand deeper spiritual truths. Since this is the case, it makes profound spiritual truths relatable, understandable, and it makes those things that are abstract, even philosophical or theological ideas easier to understand when we relate them to everyday life. And so we see that in Galatians chapter 6. It talks about sowing, or we would use the word planting, and reaping. An agricultural process where you put something in the ground, you're committed to a process of it growing, and eventually you reap or harvest that which you have planted. And what Paul is going to tell us here in Galatians chapter 6, starting in the middle of verse 7, is just not true of a packet of seeds you buy, or a field you plant, or maybe an orchard that you have made, but our lives as well. And not just our lives in the sense that decisions, both good and bad, have consequences, but the things we decide about God and within the framework of God's will bears fruit. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this morning after we read Galatians chapter 6, starting in verse 7. We're going to begin with the words, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, he will also reap. For the one who sows to his own flesh will from the flesh reap corruption. So if you go back into chapter 5, there are two different sets of lists of behaviors that a person has. One are the acts of the flesh. Now, there are some Christians who believe that our bodies are inherently evil. Like, our bodies are inherently evil. And so part of the struggle that people have with the idea that we will have a physical body in the new heavens and the new earth is like, hey, wait, our bodies, the physical matter that makes you up is bad. All right. When Paul is talking about the acts of the flesh, he's not talking about that. But what he is talking about is my body has, and your body has natural impulses and desires, hungers, thirsts of all kinds, that if we do not regulate them and control them, can lead us to disobey God and dishonor him with our lives. All right? And so it lists previously something called the works of the flesh or the acts of the flesh. And basically it is, if you were to kind of say to all your appetites, all your impulses, I'm not going to manage it or control it or honor God with it, and I'm just going to let it run hog wild, what you end up having is things like sexual immorality, sensuality, jealousy, fits of anger, divisions, envy, drunkenness, and things like these. So he said, that's the context. And then he talks about the fruit of the Spirit. He said Christians, instead of having all these things in their life, need to have the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And so he said, that's the context in which he says, for the one who sows his own flesh, from that flesh will reap corruption. But the one who sows to the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life. He goes on to say, and let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. And so he talks about this idea of spiritually, that includes our everyday lives, that you reap what you sow. Whatever you put in, that you are going to get back. Now, this reminded me of a conversation that I had with someone a little over a week ago. And they touched on this philosophical question. It's a question, or it's more than a question, it's an objection that people have about the Christian faith. All right, we lay out these certain things we believe about God, and the question is, if God is loving, which we would say he is, and if God is all-powerful, and we'd say he is, then why is there all this bad stuff in the world? Why is there COVID-19? Why does cancer exist? Why are we worried about crime? Why do we have to lock our doors when we go to bed at night? Why do we lock our cars obsessively in a parking lot? Why is terrorism a thing that our country has to spend billions and billions of dollars of resources to try to combat? Why is that the case? This is called the problem of evil, is the technical term for it. And it's a real question that people have. Someone that was interested in the Christian faith said, I'm on the path of believing, but I'm having trouble getting around this. It was real. It was not. Sometimes objections to Christianity are like, I think I probably do believe, but I don't want to do what a Christian typically is expected to do. I don't want to yield my life to God, so I'm just going to come up with some lame excuse so that I at least cannot cover my real intentions. I've always said if you're making an excuse, then anyone will do, right? If you've said, I'm just going to make an excuse, then it doesn't matter what it is because you're gone. I worked at FedEx Ground when we lived in Virginia for, I think, about 4 years. And you had to get up at, like, depending on the season, between 2:30 and 4:30 in the morning to load the trucks before the FedEx truck would go out. And there were some nights you're like, I just don't want to go to work the next day. And I'm not going to work the next day. So I'm going to call in sick, right? And like, it doesn't matter what you say at that point, does it? Because I always joke, the big one is you said, I had some bad Chinese food, you can't come in. All right, I always joke it's the bad Chinese food excuse. But once you make excuses, anyone do. But this person legitimately believed that, that he had this question that he struggled with. And honestly, from knowing him and some of the things that gone on in his life, it was a real question. He had experienced trauma and pain in his life. And so to answer that question, you have to ask yourself the preliminary question, why did God create human beings to begin with? And by human beings, we understand that we are distinct from all creation in that we are made in God's image, which means we have free moral choices to make. Like as much as we think our dog loves us and has emotions, or we think an animal is like us, we are distinct from all other creatures in humanity. And so why did God make us that way? And the answer is because he made us in his image as his children so that we could choose to know him and to love him. That is the ultimate good in God's sight for human beings to say, I choose to know and love God. Now, you could say, why couldn't God make it in such a way where everyone chooses to know and honor God? And faced with choosing to reap good or evil in their life, and it not just affecting their lives, but the lives of other people, why couldn't he just set it up so that you could either choose, that the people only would choose God, honoring him with their lives? And if God set up the world that way, then there would be no sin and evil in the world at all, right? And that sounds good to us. There's one problem, and you realize it right now, is that when there's only one option, do you really have a choice? The answer is no. We drink the same thing for dinner every night. Water. All right? And often it's the only thing in the house. Well, that and milk. So if we drink water every night for dinner, do my kids really have a choice to what they drink? Right? No. And if God wants us to freely choose him, and that is the highest good, but we are created in such a way where we can't, we're almost like robots then. We don't have a choice. So the reason that we reap what we sow is because God created the world in such a way where human beings have real choices. We have a real choice as to whether we're going to choose to know God and reject him. We have a real choice as to whether we are going to honor God or not with our lives. But whatever we decide, and verse 8 is clear about that, those choices are consequential. And so the reason that we'd say there's suffering in the world is because in the risk that God took in allowing human beings to have free will is he knew that people were going to sin and mess up and there'd be suffering in the world. But the choice, giving us the choice, allowed for the greatest good. And so we understand, because this is the case as a foundation, it is true that you reap what you sow. Now let me make one caveat to this. It is a general principle that we want to apply in our lives. But if you kind of go too far in that, you got to balance it. If you go down too far, you'll see anything that ever happens to a bad person, and you'll say, well, you reap what you sow, right? That bad thing happened to them and they deserved it. You reap what you sow. That was the whole issue with the book of Job, was resolving that question. And if that was the case, if any time anything bad happened to a person and they say, you reap what you sow, it's another way of saying something that sounds much more vindictive, and that is, they are getting what they deserve. And so we should realize that God is still merciful, and not every bad thing that happens to a person is a product of their bad choices. Also, we shouldn't assume that if a person has great circumstances and their life is outwardly going well at the moment, that they've been blessed by God. We have to show discretion and wisdom when those things. And so we are made in God's image, and we have a choice, so we reap what we sow. But we also have to be aware that there are times when that is, for whatever reason. The other thing that I would say is part of you can sort of reduce good and bad in the world to a couple things. I make my own decisions that I'm impacted by. Other people make decisions that I'm impacted by. But also, we live in a fallen world. So if there's an earthquake, no human being chose that. If there's a virus, imagine if there was a virus going around, upsetting our lives for months and months at a time. That is not the result of anyone's sin. That is the result of us living in a fallen world. So we can't, we have to be careful how we think about these things. The other thing that as we think about you reap what you sow, in the sense of, and I want us to begin to think about, like, what am I investing my life in? What am I sowing? And this is a truly glorious thought, or a truly scary thought, is that it is exponential in nature. So, how many of you have ever raised a garden before? What's the easiest thing to grow? What? Peas? Weeds? That's not, you're not raising a weed. You're not having a weed, not a weed farm. What's the easiest thing? What's some of the easiest thing to grow? Onions? I always struggled with onions. Tomatoes? Tomatoes, yeah. To me, it was always zucchinis, right? That and at some point late summer around here, you can't even give a zucchini away, right? People are just they're like kittens. They're getting dropped off at people's doors, you know. You cannot give a zucchini away. But so I would say, I'm going to plant a row of zucchinis, and so I'd go to the nursery up there, and I'd get one pack of seeds, and to make one row that way in my garden, did I even need a whole pack of seeds? No. I need like a dozen seeds or so, and I'd plant them in, and I'd go out there, they'd grow, and they'd grow. I'd pluck a zucchini off, and the next day I'd pluck another zucchini off. I'd pluck another zucchini, and it's like you could have a car full of zucchinis from those ones right there. And so the seeds from a zucchini are in the inside. So and the zucchinis will and some people are proud of growing monstrous zucchinis, right? Although the bigger they are, the worse they taste, in my opinion. But let's say I just let one zucchini grow and grow and grow, and I say, we're going to roast that in dinner, and I certainly wouldn't enjoy that, but you cut it in half and you split it open. And how many seeds are inside that one zucchini, of which there are dozens planted that grew from one seed? How many seeds are inside one zucchini? Probably, if not hundreds, thousands, right? So it's exponential growth. If you plant corn, you put one, it grows from one seed. Now, and how many, someone gives me sweet corn, so I stop raising it, all right? I'm a practical man. So how many ears of corn are on one corn stalk? 2 or 3? 2? And then how many kernels, which is just a seed, right, are on one ear of corn? How many would you guess? I don't know. The number I was thinking is about 240 at least, right? So it's like exponential growth. So you think about that, like, all right, if I choose to be kind and I choose to be patient, that is me putting one little seed in the ground, and that is a good that I will reap maybe hundreds, maybe 1,000 times. Like, God isn't just going to say, you know what, I'm going to give you a 1-for-1 conversion, but like when you choose me, I am going to truly bless you and I'm going to multiply what you do. That's a great thought, isn't it? And if we sat there and thought about the different decisions we made each day that way, we'd probably be more inclined to do good. The flip side of it is, though, like for everything that I say work, because it's never completely one way or the other with us, is it? There's no one here that says, you know what, I choose God all the time. Every thought I have, every word I speak, every decision I make, it's all for, and so I'm just getting a huge, and none of us are like, he is just bad to the bone. First of all, if you're completely bad to the bone, why would you be here in Bowersville at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning? You would be. But let's be honest, all of us have flaws that we deal with. And if you apply this exponential principle to it, that means if I drop some impatience into the ground as opposed to patience, or kindness instead of unkindness, or whatever it is for you, or whatever it is for me, that's going to grow and multiply as well. Which makes us stop and think, well, how should I be investing my life? What should I be choosing to do? Here's one of the things we should realize about this principle of you reap what you sow as well. And that this takes time. It's a process. It's October, and they're harvesting soybeans. When do they usually plant that? March and April, correct? May, June. Soybeans? When do they plant corn? March, April. So for soybeans, it takes, let's say June, July, August, September, October, 4 or 5 months. For corn, if they plant in April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 7 or 8 months. It's not a quick process. It takes time. Because we are used to living in a world with instant results. My greatest pinnacle as a gardener was this strawberry patch that I had. And it grew the most delicious strawberries. It was incredibly productive and fruitful. It was great. And my kids were much younger when I had this strawberry patch. And they said, Dad, you should plant another strawberry patch. I felt like saying, well, last time I grew a strawberry patch, you weren't in soccer, and she wasn't in dance, and he wasn't running. Our lives were a lot simpler when I planted that strawberry patch. But I don't tell them that. What I tell them is, here's the deal about a strawberry patch. They asked me about it in the spring. If I plant it this year and take care of it, and by I taking care of it, I mean I will take care of it because I know that you guys are not super motivated to be tending a strawberry patch weeding it, pushing that. You're not interested in doing that. If you do that, you will get 0 berries this entire year from it. Oh, really? I said, and then next year, this year we'll just send out runners and grow new plants. And next year you will get some berries, but very few from it. And then 2 years from now, 24 months, which seems to get, for a kid, that sounds like an eternity, right? 2 years from now, then you will have more strawberries than you can eat. And their answer is, oh. Which means what? Forget it, I don't want to wait that long. I don't want to wait that long. If you drive into Port William, and before you enter the city limits, there are all these trees lined up in a row. It's a grove of what kind of trees? Walnuts. Not just any kind of walnuts. What kind of walnut? Black walnut trees, right? And that lumber from that tree is extremely, extremely valuable. So people treat those trees as like an investment. People describe those black walnut groves as an IRA. They think of it as a form of a retirement account. There's one up in 72 on the corner up here as well. What's that? Sabina Road? I never go out on Sabina. That's not the neck of the woods that I'm in. So I thought, like, hey, so I first read about this, and I was talking to my brother about it, and I'm like, man, because there was a piece of property that my dad was selling to my aunt, and they offered it to us first. And so I was floating with my brother the idea of, I said, what if we buy that, you and I buy it together, keep it in our immediate family, and we plant a black walnut grove as a long-term investment? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? See, yeah, we should think about this. And then we looked at how long you have to have a black walnut grove growing before it's worth any real money. 30 years. And it's like, 30 years from now, we're young men now, but 30 years from now, we'll be old men, right? So who wants to wait that long? Not us. And not most of people. But the truth of the matter is that is the way that harvest works. Some things take longer than others. If you know young people, if you have grandkids or great-grandkids that are young, they live a great deal of their lives. They consume a lot of media through YouTube. And one of the genres of videos that are on YouTube is called an instant karma series, which means like a man comes up and starts harassing a woman in a very threatening and menacing way, and he doesn't know she's a black belt in karate, and immediately she like takes care of him, like instant. And there are just video after video, and with snippet after snippet in these, and so there's idea of like maybe instant justice is something that does exist. And so that appeals to us like, hey, if you are acting out of school, if you're acting the wrong way, especially if someone is doing something to you of which you are the victim, the idea of instant justice is very appealing. But we have to realize with the idea of you reap what you sow doesn't happen quickly. It usually happens over time. Things that instantly happen are the exception rather than the rule. Occasionally, someone will take an illegal drug for the first time and it'll instantly kill them. Or if you are driving and making a bad decision as to whether you drive, one bad decision made in a split second can kill you on the road because driving is that dangerous. But most of the time, when we reap what we sow, it's going to happen over a much, much longer period of time. For example, if we want to compare maybe not to agriculture, but the human body, if all of us decide today, hey, we want to be healthier, right? We're going to be, and some of you are like actively engaged in healthy lifestyles, but say, I'm going to be healthier. I want to improve my cardiovascular health. And so I think they say you need about 120 minutes each week of cardiovascular exercise, so 2 hours. Let's say, hey, on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're going to walk 30 minutes. Not just any walk, a brisk walk, all right? Now, if you haven't done anything for a long period of time and you go out for that brisk walk, you're probably going to feel tired and winded, right? I mean, if you haven't done anything, if you've just been sitting around streaming Netflix or watching soap operas all day, you even, like, no cardiovascular health, 30 minutes of brisk walk, you're going to feel it, right? But you say, you know what, despite the fact that it doesn't feel great, I want to choose a healthy lifestyle. So day 2, I'm going to continue on that Tuesday. I am going to get up and walk the next day. On day 2 is like, oh, now that I've exercised yesterday, today I'm in great cardiovascular health. I'm just breezing along, wind in my hair, enjoying the countryside. Is that going to happen? Day 2? No, in fact, you're going to feel worse because your muscles are sore. You're going to be like, oh. You realize it takes time. In fact, on week 2, will you feel like, I wasn't in shape a week ago, but now I am. I'm breathing clearly. I'm walking easily. Is it going to take 1 week? No. 6 to 8 weeks, probably. And then you hear that, you're like, ugh. It's a little longer than I wanted to put into it. And that's just to be like a bare minimum. Like, I was at a cross-country meet for Micah on yesterday, and it said, these kids are not talking about like, I just want to have healthy heart, healthy lungs. They are optimizing performance, getting to their very best. Both the junior high and the high school kids. Some of these kids have been engaging in this activity, not always as committed as they should be, for years and years and years and years of total effort, 5 to 7 days a week, almost year round. And so for us to think, one way or the other, like, well, I was really patient yesterday, and so I want to now see my results today. I know that God promised He would bless my decision to be patient yesterday, and so I'm ready for it. God bless me in some way that's multiplied. That's not the way it works. And the flip side of it is, it could be that we made a choice that maybe only we know about, and we said, well, this choice may have some severe consequences, but we wake up the day and we think, nothing seemed to have happened because I chose this thing in my life that dishonored God. I seem to have got away with it. Again, the answer might be, well, we need to give it a little bit of time. Anything you're trying to do that is worthwhile requires a little bit of time to get things done. If I said, Jamie and I have always talked about wanting to learn Spanish, and we said in the middle of the pandemic, said if we don't learn Spanish now, when we're going to ever do it? Like, we're just home alone all the time. We should learn Spanish now. And we watched these videos like for 1 day and 2 days. And the third day, and we had notebooks and we were practicing. And did I wake up on day 4 speaking fluent Spanish? No, because it requires a lot of hard work. And the effort will go on down and down the road. My senior year in college, I signed up for Hebrew. I'd taken 2 years of Greek, and so I said, I should take Hebrew, so I have a balanced understanding of the Bible. And so I went in on a Tuesday and went to the class. It's really hard. Hebrew is very, very hard. Much harder than Greek. Like, Greek is easy compared to Hebrew. And Dr. Fields, who's a linguistic genius, like, I'm not exaggerating, he's like a genius when it comes to languages. He speaks 7 languages, several which are dead languages, so, like, it's easy for him. And so he gave us the alphabet, and he said, all right, on Thursday, you're going to have a quiz, the entire Hebrew alphabet. And so I studied some that night and the next night. And on Thursday, 10 minutes before the quiz, I went to the registrar's office and dropped Hebrew 1. I said, I'm not, like, this thing is going to take time. And it's just not time that I was interested in investing at that time, because I by no means needed to graduate. So when we talk about what we reap, what we sow, realize that it is going to take time for that to materialize. And one of the reasons that we need to think in those terms is because we may not just think about ourselves, but we may look at other people and think, gee, it seems like they reaped a bunch of bad in their life and got away with it. And so for us to really truly understand this reap what you sow principle, we have to think about it in light of eternity. So there's decisions that we make in this life that have consequences instantly, some that have consequences eventually down the road. But there are bad decisions and good decisions that are not seem to be not be compensated at all in this world. And we may wonder, like, then God, what does it mean when you say you reap what you sow? But if we have the proper perspective, we realize that our lives here on earth, when compared to eternity, are incredibly short. Like if we compare it to, like if you think of infinity, I tend to think of space. I didn't look this up, but the moon seems like a long way away, right? I mean, it looks close, but I'm not going to guess. It's a long ways away. You have to take a spaceship to get there, right? Far away. So let's imagine the trip to the moon. And not just the moon. I mean, we could go even further than that. Say we wanted to go to Mars. There's a lot of movies about people going to Mars or orbiting around Saturn or whatever. But let's say we're going to the moon. And the moon is eternity. That distance is eternity. Well, then what distance would we compare our time on earth to? However far I could jump off the floor, which is not very high these days, is still too much, right? Because you can't even really compare the two. Because like time in the new heavens and new earth is infinite. It's endless. We can't even quantify it. So, and the struggle with this is that we live in space and time. For us, if we're waiting on something, weeks, even days can seem like a long time. But the comparison is to eternity. You can think about it in money as well, comparing the infinite to the small. I'm not sure who the richest person in the United States is. It kind of goes, let's say it's the guy that owns Amazon, Jeff Bezos. He's worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. Is that amount of money that you can conceive of, billions of dollars? Like $1 billion is 1,000 millions. If you put it in $20 bills, you'd have to have a forklift to move $1 billion around, right? So imagine having a warehouse full of cash. Let's say that is eternity. And then our lives is what? Compared to that, our time on earth is 1 cent, and that's still too much. So, we definitely want to reap what we sow because it comes back in multiples, but we also have to have the right perspective and patience when doing so. We're going to end there. Our time has elapsed. Were there any prayer requests that came through? I forgot to announce that. No? All right, let's close in prayer. Dear God, we thank you so much for today. We thank you for each day of life that you give us and that we know and that we can know your Son. And God, I pray that when we decide how we're going to live, what we're going to say, how we're going to think, decisions we make, that we will truly seek to understand the principle of you reap what you sow. Thank you for allowing us to choose you, and I pray that we do that every day. And I pray that we'll be patient on waiting on ways that you will bless us when we honor you. We thank you for your Son. In his name I pray. Amen.